Hey guys, Kevin here. Today I'm going to be talking about basically my journey as a self-taught developer. So you might be asking why this would be important to you. So if you ever thought about possibly programming, maybe not as full-time or maybe just getting some new skills and continuing to build skills that might make your life easier, either through automation or anything like that, um, just knowing enough programming can make your life a whole lot easier at work. You can save time not having to like go through millions of pages of like Word documents, PDF documents, Excel spreadsheets. There's a lot of ways that you can automate a lot of your business tasks during your normal day-to-day operations. And also programming is a lot of fun too. And there's usually a stigma of it being hard. Obviously, there are a lot of hard concepts. Once you get more deep into that skill set, to learning programming, you got to learn harder and harder concepts. With anything, as you master some skill set and practice it more and more, you're going to obviously encounter harder obstacles, harder problems you need to solve, and learn those concepts deeply. But you can definitely teach yourself enough programming skill to see gains. I wouldn't say immediately, but pretty soon after minimal investment. So anyways, that's why learning programming would be very beneficial to you. You would end up saving more time, making more money, and if you see it as a potential career, it's always easy to switch. That's one of the beautiful things about programming, is you can interview for it. Like a lot of tech companies and interviewers, they only care if you know your stuff when it comes to programming. Do you know data structures? Do you know algorithms? Have you done substantial work at your job? So if you think about a career change, the best time to learn programming is right now. So anyways, back to how I got into my own journey in learning programming. And I went to school originally as a business major. I had always been surrounded by computers and programming. My dad actually was a computer science professor at a local college in Los Angeles. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but it kind of makes sense, at least to me, while later in my life I was drawn to trying to learn that skill set again. I'd always been around it. I remember doing these little tiny projects with my dad. I used to be really into Mega Man and that TV show, and I remember trying to convince my dad, "Hey, let's try to build like that AI. Let's try to build like a Mega Man handheld." Obviously, I didn't have programming skills, and my dad was entertaining me. Maybe not entertaining, but he was indulging my sense of curiosity and wonder. And also, I'll show a kind of a quick picture. I mean, the video around here, but I actually remember one of the days for career day when I was in elementary school. My dad showed up and we built computers. And it's always something I've been fond of, but I may have forgotten my love for. So that's why I kind of gravitated more towards business pursuits and pursuing majors in business in college. I was actually really interested in international business. So when I was in college, my two majors were supply chain and finance, and my minor was Chinese studies. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to go to China, which I eventually did, and I'll talk about it sometime else in the future. But it's just something I was more interested in at the time. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to have financial freedom, and basically I thought that was the best way to do it. Anyways, straight out of those 4 years in college, I eventually got a job in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was more business focused. I was part of a rotation, but it was focused on basically improving processes within my specific team. And I forgot to mention one thing in college. There's always been these little instances where I tried to learn programming, but I wasn't either confident or didn't know what resources, what books, what courses I should take to learn it. If I go back in time, I would definitely take computer science as a major and start building things faster. But honestly, the best time to learn a skill is now. Like, our time is limited. And but I remember two specific instances, kind of trying to pick it up in high school, and more importantly, in college. I remember asking one of my friends who was a little bit more successful as a programmer, like what resources I should check, and he recommended a book, but I think just me being distracted by college, I didn't take it seriously. Um, but I think that little seed and the idea of me trying to program uh, was definitely budding. And when I first started my job straight out of college, I remember trying again to find ways to teach myself um, programming, any language to be honest. And I remember I was on Reddit and they recommended one Java class. I think it was a Stanford-based class where you basically had to move a virtual robot in a certain pattern. And I was horrible at it. I mean, I was god awful at Java. I actually, I was probably so scarred away from Java. I really haven't even programmed it since 6 years ago. That's how much I didn't like the language at the time. It flew way over my head. Anyways, um, my interest in learning programming kind of died down for a year, and I really wish I wasn't discouraged there. What I've learned kind of along this learning journey is you have to persevere through hard times. You got to focus on like going past those obstacles, or you're not going to learn. Anyways, my next opportunity to learn programming and finally take it seriously was in my next rotation. So I was part of a 3-year business rotation, and in that second rotation, I became part of the data analytics team, and um, that gave me like the wonderful opportunity to learn Python. It's still one of my favorite languages. Like, I'm honestly in love with this programming language. I mean, just the history about it is so awesome. Like, if you guys don't know, I mean, a lot of programmers already know this, but I love to tell people who don't. Um, the Python programming language was actually called Python because Guido, the founder of the language, he was a big Monty Python and the Flying Circus fan. So one of the cool things about actually reading the documentation is you see all these references to the old comedy troupe and their TV show. So I mean, I just loved it for that small reason. But like, as you get to learn the language, you realize how human readable it is, how simple it is. And when I was looking up for resources, because we had certain projects to deal with Excel spreadsheets, and we had to automate a lot of that stuff, well, or at least try, because if we didn't, we're going to have to do a lot of manual row lookup and copy and pasting. And at least to me, like that just seemed like a lot of busy work, and I didn't want to spend hours and possibly weeks doing something I knew I could do faster. Thank God for Reddit again. When I was learning Python, I found one of my favorite books, and I always recommend it to new people who want to learn programming to automate stuff. The book's called "Automate the Boring Stuff" by Alice Swigert. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but it's a fantastic book. And the reason I think it's fantastic is because it doesn't try to bog you down in learning the precise syntax, or like learn everything you need to know deeply about Python. And I think one of the clever things about the book is it gets you really practicing and working on simple tasks and builds it a little bit more difficult chapter by chapter. So it just gives you enough to start getting to know the language a little bit better. So it's common things like variables, how to store data, how to do for loops for repetitions, and procedures and commands you need to do. And then eventually it has you playing with web crawlers, how to access Word documents, how to go through spreadsheets, whether it be the CSV format or Excel spreadsheets itself, PDFs, how to send automated text messages. I mean, it's just a great little cookbook of programming commands as well. And the reason I think it's so good is because you can give it to anybody and they have that pain point in the particular business process, and you kind of can explain how much time they can save. Like, you can see the eyes light up. So that's particularly what happened with one of my business projects. I think we had like an Excel spreadsheet of some form of customer feedback. So anyway, with that project, like I was saying, with the spreadsheet automation and the customer feedback, um, the great thing was, like, once we ran it through the Python script, the script I think took like less than a minute, like maybe less than 30 seconds to run through this whole spreadsheet, all this data, and automatically transform, manipulate the data in like our particular goals. So, removing sensitive information, yada yada yada, and like I was like blown away. That made my eyes wide, and like you really kind of get like, it's almost like you're an investigator. And I know I use the analogy already, but it's like you have like this crime that you can't solve, like for the longest time, and then you just have like this moment of realization, like light bulb going out, and let me do that again. Anyways, with the spreadsheet project, um, we were running the Python script, and it took, I think, less than 30 seconds, maybe a minute, to go through all this information on this large spreadsheet, 120,000 rows, and it processed all the information. So what could have taken weeks or months took a couple of minutes. And it only took an upfront investment of like a week or two to actually learn the language and write the code and work out the bugs. I mean, I was sold after that. Like, I knew that's like what I had to kind of pivot my career towards. I had to move away from more business focused endeavors to like just try to be like a full-time developer. So I always had that in my back of the mind, like as I was going through like that rotation, and I repeated that again, but for more experience. And I just kept on doing that more and more. I try to find whatever excuse I could to automate things at work or on projects and really improve my skills. And this was around the same time I tried to basically jump from automation to more web development, and where I found a lot of great friends and mentors who helped me out along the way. Um, so kind of doing a little bit more research online, I found out, obviously, if you want to do web development, JavaScript's the way to go. I know a lot of developers don't like JavaScript, but I knew kind of that was the next step I had to do. So basically, what I did was look for people in the company who would be willing to mentor me, or at least bounce some questions here and there, and if I got stuck with anything, ask them. And I found like this great guy who got along well, Randy. Randy, if you're out there, love you, brother. Thank you for all the help. I appreciate it. And that's really something I like about the software engineer or developer community in general. There's so much sharing of knowledge and really good attitudes, at least in my experience. Like, people are willing to help you out. This is kind of a side story, and I'll get back. But actually, I remember going to a programming conference, and this one startup guy who I think went to DjangoCon in Philadelphia, he spent 3 hours trying to help me work out a bug, and he didn't have to, but I mean, that's what I typically saw with other software engineers and developers. They're willing to help out, and that's something I really like about the community. Also, you see this with kind of the commitment to open source too. People are just they really have a vision, at least when it comes to the software development. Like, hey, no, I just got to put it out in the world. I got to share. I got to make everything better, and that's what I really like. Anyways, back to Randy. He gave me a lot of guidance over the next couple months. Okay, you're doing this wrong. You need to focus on these skills. You should go on free code camp, work on through the challenges, build projects, really build out your portfolio. Because after my second rotation in data analytics, he says you should start looking for your next job, and these are the within the company, and here's the skills that you need to get. So I did that over the next couple of months, and as I was looking for a different team within the company, um, because of the advice and work he had me do, I was able to find a team who was willing to take a chance on me as a self-taught developer. And I wouldn't say, I don't want to say I had it easy, but I think it's definitely an easier path than just being a straight out self-developer going to a new company. I did have that leverage, or at least luck, to have the credibility. Okay, this guy's a hard worker or has a good skill set from a different team, and I was able to transition that way. But you definitely in any situation want to leverage any positive skill set or advantage you have in order to get the job. As long as you get your foot in the door, or foot in the interview, you really can astound or impress the software development teams you interview with. Anyways, I was excited in general to join this team. Like, I was so happy. Like, to make a long story short, with that team, like, I love my boss, I love my teammates there. We worked on a lot of good stuff. I was helped maintain and build and further develop a legacy software website where we helped other teams at my company, work through products we help manage and server infrastructure like that. And then also at that job, just doing automation with a lot of our server infrastructure too. So I'm improving my skills here and there, but I think one of the best parts of actually joining that team was just my coworkers. They really pushed me. They helped me out when I made mistakes, and when crap hit the fan, like we were a little squad. We were gonna figure out what happened, and we were gonna get the job done. And I learned a lot from my coworkers. Candace, if you're out there, really appreciate all the advice, and I loved working with you too. He's actually the guy that got me really interested in learning Go. Again, fun little side story. I remember he told me, Kevin, you gotta learn Go, or Golang, the programming language created by Google, because it's the back-end language of the future. I kind of brushed him aside because at that point our team was focused on development in Node.js, and I just wanted to make sure I knew enough of that. But it's kind of funny when you hear this advice. Maybe you're not ready at the time, but about 6 months later, I started learning more and more. And I don't know if I love it more than Python, but it's really close. I think I might. Like, Go is such a simple and awesome language to learn. Anyways, it kind of made me appreciate the kind of that feedback or advice you get from other people. Maybe you don't appreciate it at the time, but I think just always be willing to listen. Because if I had listened to him sooner, I would be a lot better. So always take those opportunities to learn. Anyways, I also want to shout out a couple of my other developer coworkers too, Vignesh and Vishwa. Hard workers, great developers. They did so much awesome projects on my team, and I learned a ton from them. Especially they're great hard workers too, so that kind of drove me as well. Anyways, that's kind of been my journey as a self-taught developer. But first learning those skills and finding projects to get practice and expand that knowledge base really helped out. So if you're trying to learn or teach yourself programming, find those little projects that you could practice those skills. So like maybe you handle a lot of invoices with Microsoft Word, or maybe you work with Microsoft Word to do some patent stuff, or maybe you have to send emails at a certain time, you can automate all that stuff as long as you work out the process and code it. So what I mean by that is you can take any process, and if you can know it deeply, so okay, I know this process takes 9 steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You can automate all that stuff with your language of choice. Now I would say if you're starting out, learn Python, but you can work on these little projects. In the book I mentioned, Automate the Boring Stuff, that's a great book to start and just like pick your small projects and just practice. As long as you practice every day, you're going to get better at your skill. Actually, one thing I didn't mention during the part I was telling you about Randy and his advice that he gave me was when I was on free code camp, my JavaScript skills, the real jump for me was when I was practicing those problems every single day. So if any new skill, practice every little day, you get that much better. And another great piece of advice that I got along my learning journey, and then kind of reiterated by one of my friends, Ryan, in a different context, is if you want to learn a skill, just focus on that one skill. Don't try to jump around from language to language. That's actually a very common mistake for programmers, and I made it plenty of times, where if you like hit a wall or some adversity, you want to learn some new programming language or work on a new project. Instead, just try to learn one language if you want to get really good at it as much as you can. Try to become expert at it. Practice every day. Focus on that. Even if you have a hard problem, don't jump to a new language. I've done the mistake of where I jumped from Python to JavaScript to Swift and then Rust and back and forth and to Go and yada yada yada. Like, you really just want to focus on one language, really get really good at that. But once you know that language, the learning process for new languages is a lot easier. So, kind of in conclusion, see these opportunities, listen to other people for advice, find mentors, and pick one programming language and try to focus on a couple projects, but practice it every day. You'll be surprised in a couple of weeks, a couple of months what you're able to do. And always try to focus on projects that like kind of get you excited. So maybe sports is your thing or your hobby. Try to do data analytics with Python or your language of choice. Maybe you just really like scheduling so you can save more time not having to respond to emails or manage your calendar. You can automate all that stuff, with Python or other languages. Just whatever interests you, because that excitement is going to also kind of flow into your learning process with programming as well. And also take some time to appreciate the milestones you hit in your learning journey, like how much that you changed in a couple months. So I think it's very common, like once you learn a new skill, it's very easy to think at a certain point, oh, I'm not proving enough. But that's from like a week-to-week basis. You kind of see this with like bodybuilding or like working out. You might not see yourself getting skinnier or more muscular, but if you compare yourself to a couple months ago, you probably lost a ton of weight. The same with programming and teaching yourself that. Just remind yourself that your skills are developing, and if you are encountering like any blockers or final piece of advice, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like I was saying, the developer community is friendly, and if you find a particular person who's not, just avoid them and find someone who's willing to help you. Because what I found is that there's a lot of great men and women who are willing to help you along your learning journey. They really respect people who are trying to better themselves and learn programming in general. So, and one other thing, like once you become more comfortable programming too, please be willing to help others as well. Like pay it forward, and that's how really you build like relationships and also advance and master your own skills as well. The best way to learn something is to teach it to someone else. So you use that as an opportunity to either like mentor people or explain a concept, and that'll also improve your skills overall. Anyways, I may have forgotten some steps overall, like with myself, self-teaching with programming, but I hope you enjoyed it. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to be talking about common mistakes that self-taught programmers make, and probably some books to check out for programming as well. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.